There are no shortcuts to getting highly coveted press coverage for your brand, only smart cuts like the DIY PR project. Learn how to grow your brand's credibility with PR on a budget with me by your side. This program is your all-in-one membership with expert training, customizable templates, and a supportive community to cheer you on every step of the way. Join us and start growing your business with free publicity today. Sign up now at diy-pr.com. Hey friends, today's episode of Grow Your Wealth is an inside look into a coaching call with one of our new DIY PR clients. Rohit Murthy of Belfiore Herbal and I sit down to chat about growing his family's e-commerce skincare business. I'm really excited for this one because it's a super real look at what's top of mind for beauty brand founders these days. What are they struggling with? And what do opportunities look like for elevating recognition in such a competitive market? While you're listening, if you are curious about getting some of this custom hands-on feedback and guidance for your beauty or wellness business, I'd love to invite you to connect with me at diy-pr.com or factorpr.com. Those links are down below. Depending on where your business is at, you might qualify for our done-for-you agency services or more do-it-together programming. Speaking of which, I recently recorded a secret podcast episode just for beauty, health, and wellness brands called The Secret to Standing Out in a Saturated Marketplace. You can give it a listen at factorpr.com too. All right, let's dive in.
Hello, Rena.
Good to see you today. How's it going?
I saw you get interviewed by the Real Face Project, or I think it's the Full Face, whichever one.
Yes, that was an interesting podcast.
Yeah, like I met Derek in like a random place so many years ago, and he started this thing, and so then I started following his like channels. Saw your interview, saw Real Fluence, joined that a while ago, and then just been keeping up with emails. And then saw the DIY PR sort of stream come out, and we joined that one.
That's
Uh,
awesome. How do you find it so far?
But to be honest, I think there's a lot of value in there and a lot of pieces in there. It's just dedicating the time in there. So we're trying to figure out how we can best both educate ourselves on the world of PR. In the past, we had some friends that have been like, in the industry for some time and maybe helped us a little with localized pitching, things like that in the Bay. And then, in like peak pandemic time, I was with Press Hook, and that was like a whole thing that was good at the time. I think it evolved out of like where we were in pricing and where we were, mutually moving. So now at this point, with my mom being like essentially the face of the brand, right? How do we evolve ourselves into being more in the driver's seat? So DIY PR seemed to be the move.
The good.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, we have these calls. Thank you for so much for participating. I know it's just like starting, right? Starting anything new. The way that we have built DIY PR is really go at your own pace. But as you see, there are quite a few communications that will go out just to kind of help guide you in terms of what to do next, a little bit of homework, just to really make sure, right? Anytime we learn something, it can be overwhelming, but one of the things that we sort of reduce that overwhelm as well as demonstrate, that you're learning something new, learning this new skill that you can use in your business is putting pen to paper, right? And actually doing the work, right? So I wanted to make sure that it wasn't just a course that you watch and you're like, cool, I know a bunch of stuff now, right? No, now you have tools that you can go out and start securing press coverage. That being said, since you're still kind of diving in, if you would like, we can use this time just to really talk about Belfiore, some of like the press goals that you have and like, call it an ask me anything. I would love to help in any way. Would that be
Yeah.
helpful? I'd love to also share this with the community.
That is awesome. I appreciate this coming off the cuff a little bit. So just a quick like 2-minute background is my parents are both in their 70s. They've both been in the cell biology and molecular biology space for 40 years out of the Bay, out of my mom specifically out of UCSF. Their passions come together in farming and growing things. My mom specifically within flowers. And over time, as you know, they were getting a bit older, it was like, where do we want to go? What do we want to do? Farming is the natural progression for a lot of cultures, right? And so we were looking in the Bay for like almonds, pistachios, grapes, what have you, right? For wine. For a while, it was like the wine dream. Flowers kept coming to the top because my mom also found this passion of turning the flowers she grew in her backyard, marigold, rosemary, and lavender, into skincare products. And her basis for all this is true, like first level biology, which is a lot of these plants have the proper derivatives of vitamins and minerals that will help your body at its cellular level either create new cells that have the proper collagen and elastin, or remove dead cells, which is where a lot of antioxidants need to come in to flush the dead cells out. And so that's the basis of the whole company. And all of this leads us to a variety of products, all plant-based, all US grown aside from shea butter, which we get from a female farm collective from overseas in Ghana. And all that leads to all of us that know, okay, how to grow the product, how to make it, but we kind of fall short on like how to market it. It's not any of our strong suits. I work in pharmaceutical manufacturing, technology, and commercial. My brother works in programming. So we all ended up over the last couple of years trying a variety of things. So where this ended up is we have basically 3 channels. And we divide this up by the family too, because it all oddly worked out well. Where my dad and my brother basically handle everything that's happening on the farm. When I say the farm, there was a jump point where we were outstripping the amount of plants we can grow in our backyard. We bought 11 acres of land, of which we've planted 4,000 lavender plants over the last couple of years. And we take all those lavender plants in the summer, harvest them, distill them into essential oil and hydrosol. And the essential oil itself is a product, but you use the hydrosol and the essential oil in mixtures with the creams to make various lotions, serums, what have you, toners, other items, right? And my mom loves to make products. We keep making products, right? And going back to the 3 channels, we're like, okay, what do we do? I was in the direct to consumer thought process because I'm very distinctly like a 34-year-old millennial. So that's like the exact era that I'm in. My mom was like, we need to go to spas and estheticians at B2B. And then my brother's like, let's go on Amazon. So that's how the 3 of us divide up the channels, where my brother's got a few things on Amazon, which is a nice sale channel. I've tried a variety of things around direct consumer space. With my mom, we go to a variety of spa and esthetician conferences on the West Coast. It's easier for them to drive. We bring products, the whole thing. Vegas is our usual flagship show. And so where we've kind of struggled with like, how do we market ourselves, right? Is it a direct to consumer brand? Or is it a consumer brand, or is it a professionals brand? And we've tried a couple things in which we've segregated products and do custom formulations B2B, and that's gone well. And then on the direct to consumer side, we've achieved a good amount of sales for things like serums and mists and what have you. And so when we think about PR, where this all came back was what's really the unique proposition here is like it's the farm and it's my mom and it's science, right? And these things kind of come all together where we started to really get, I guess, better media traction in a very small sense when we had a friend pitching for us that it was my mom like talking on a podcast, right? And so that's kind of like the struggle of like how do we accelerate this, or how do we keep building this? I don't know what's I guess like the right pitch book around it, right? That's the struggle we're in right now.
Definitely understand. Well, first of all, kudos to you. PR is not an easy thing to embark on, but it's important, especially as a product-based business. Anytime you can get, third-party unpaid endorsements, right? Like, I tried this, look, how my skin transformed. It's certainly powerful. It's powerful because that's human nature to trust things that are endorsed in that matter. So it sounds like then from a retail perspective, just kind of wanting to back up there, because back in the day, the good old days, even about 5 years ago, it used to be that PR used to kind of help retail, where that is still the case, but also retail helps PR. So a few things that stand out to me, you've got 3, kind of retail verticals. You've got your direct to consumer, which sounds like is mostly .com. Is that correct, through your website?
Yes.
You also have Amazon as your biggest online distributor other than your D2C. And then you've got B2B, which is working with places like estheticians, spas, and things of that nature, correct?
Yes, exactly.
What is performing the best right now?
In pure volume sales, it's Amazon, right? but in total margin and total like high, not volume, but in total like single quantity orders, it's B2B.
Okay.
And like it's an interesting mix because in Amazon it would be, I will use a very corporate term like the like the low cost products that ship easily on Amazon. Like back to this making the lavender essential oil, that's like a higher value product than the lavender water, right? It's like a 90 to 10 ratio. So we just sell these lavender waters like a lavender mist. And it sells like crazy on Amazon. It's less so of a desirable product for estheticians and spas. They'd like the essential oils or serums or other oils that my mom makes. But depending on how we work with the esthetician, that can be like an $800 to $1,000 like sale, right? Versus like a couple $20 a couple times a day, for instance.
Yeah.
So that's how we're like, it's not a clear split on like which one's the best right now because, for instance, we go to this spa conference in Las Vegas and we meet a bunch of new estheticians or we meet a bunch of established spas and they're like, let's try your product. We give them samples. They come back in a week. All right, we'll do an order for 50 samples or what have you, or 50 serums. Or in some folks in bulk concentration too, right? And that helps us because when we think about being vertically integrated, it would be ideal if we're able to just make a gallon of serum, for instance, and then they can use it in their back bar. And that helps everybody out in terms of efficiency and cost. So that's the two split right now. And I can tell you between like the dollars spent on like paid ads and like just social media and TikTok and what have you, it hasn't quite netted out into a positive return on sales yet, but I'm working on that. That's like my other fall pipeline right now.
Well, hey, knowing that as well too, that you've got some other marketing mechanisms in place, PR can help those ads actually perform better, right? Advertising is fantastic for generating visibility. PR is great for generating trust. So if you can combine those two, then we start to see you're reaching more people through advertising, but you're leveraging some of that third-party endorsements, that trust, those reviews in your advertising. And now you're hitting the logical and the part of a person that is also curious about the product too. And once we're able to kind of build that trust, it makes transactions a lot easier. So it sounds like you guys are kind of in those still early stages. I would consider you more of that like emerging brand, which is great. We all have to start somewhere. And it's really smart that you are thinking about kind of a multifaceted approach because your ideal customer sounds like is not going to be in one place. From a PR perspective, what it would really love to think about together is how can you multiply the impact? I love that you've got like segments, like you're working on this, your mom's working on that. How can you kind of build some of that crossover so that you can multiply things instead of just adding more things to do, right? Because whereas like with the estheticians, you might be getting like bigger purchase value. It sounds like you're also spending a lot more time, right? And time is opportunity cost, right? So if you're spending a lot of time going to all these trade shows and creating these relationships, which is great, but it might not be the most profitable option for you, right? You can see how that can kind of
Exactly right. Yeah.
a new can of worms too.
Yeah.
So I really love to work with businesses on like, how can you do less, but with more impact, right? And so some of the things that I'm kind of thinking about is could we start thinking about advocates or brand ambassadors for your brand? If you already have estheticians, for example, that purchase your product, use your product, know your product, love your product, you're starting a PR campaign. One of the most powerful points of leverage that a product-based business can use in a PR campaign is coming with experts that can also talk about the product, right? Because we want certainly roundups, reviews, I tried this type of features. Arguably, those are the most challenging types of features to secure because a lot of those are starting to become even more pay to play that are very affiliate driven. So before we really dive into different tactics, we want to first think about that overall strategy. And the nice thing about this little exercise that we'll kind of do together right now is that it's not just good for PR, it's good for everything. It's good for organic, paid, all of the things. And since I'm just getting myself familiar with your brand, maybe you could tell me what is your secret sauce? Why would someone want to make a purchase between your brand and another brand at a similar price point, similar ingredients? Like, is there something that your brand has that nobody else has other than mom. We love mom, but mom is not a celebrity yet. So we don't have that name recognition per se, but I
Yep.
like she's got credibility. So let's hang on to that. But what is that UVP?
Yeah. I think about this a lot because we've changed our answer a couple times, which is it used to be the credibility on 40 years of cell biology experience built into the formulas, right? So that was hard for us to really portray, right? And really like explain to people in an easy to use manner, right? So that's kind of where we've been like rolling that back a little bit, but I do like hanging on to the credibility.
Yeah.
So the other pieces of Unique Cell has been uh US based farm, all plant ingredients, all again, all grown in America, all family owned, right? And it's like all minimalist ingredients, right? It's so there's no preservatives, it's all ingredients you can pronounce. We could use the scientific names, we could use the common names. At this point, domestic sales, it doesn't matter, right? Because no international sales. So it all is like a plant-based, made in America, highly effective formula, right? That's kind of how have been running the unique selling propositions. But this is again an area where like so open to change, but it's really all like customer feedback has come back to like you guys need to talk more about the farm or like okay we could do that like so we like we invest in a little bit of like drone shots like the whole thing like the farm and like okay people have like had a nice attachment to that maybe it's the unique piece right.
I like that too, because something that kind of came up to me or for me when you were kind of introducing Belfiore Herbal a couple minutes ago was it sounds like you have this balance between the science and the clinical, but then also this warmth about it too. There's just something so approachable and accessible about homegrown, farm-grown ingredients meets science. So maybe there's something there that we can kind of talk about. I'm also curious too, this might also help with, what we're really talking about here is positioning because
Yeah.
everything comes back to positioning, right? Part of that positioning is also this understanding of your product, of what you sell. Is it a vitamin or is it a painkiller, right? Is it something that's going to enhance what you're already doing, bring you closer to pleasure, or is it taking some kind of pain or ailment away from you? It sounds like it might be more in that vitamin category, but hearing from you, like what does the product line really do for people?
Okay. This is actually a good like interfamily. My brother and I, who aren't as deep on the science side, are like, it's a bit more the vitamin, right? It will be, why would somebody pick up our serum versus another serum? Minimalist, plant-based, lighter to use. Like there's all the benefits that come out of that and all the conveniences. And so, for instance, that might be a bit more the vitamin side, ashwagandha oil, turmeric oil, the whole thing, right? My mom's school of thought, which I agree on, but I also maybe not fully understand, is that some folks end up using what is the most popular skincare brand, not knowing that the ingredients are actually causing adverse reactions on their skin, whether it be like mineral oils or like non-comedogenic like barriers that go on. And so her whole passion is actually combating that and trying to educate people that maybe what you're using plus environmental factors are actually causing worse outcomes for your skin
Hmm.
and help and not helping your body shed dead skin cells or grow new skin cells with the right collagen, right elastin, right? And so she's on the this is a problem. I've invented something that's a painkiller for that, but I don't know if everybody recognizes it's a problem. That's the like interfamily debate that we always have.
Absolutely. Okay. So our target audience might not be problem aware. So that in and of itself is a marketing tactic, right? So when we also think about positioning, if you're running ads or preparing pitches, things along those lines, if your market might not be problem aware, we have to make them problem aware, right? Because otherwise, to your point, they might not even know there is a problem or the problem is tied to the current skincare that they're using, right? So we need to we don't want to sell the problem per se, but part of what makes PR, advertising, marketing so effective is when people see themselves in what you're selling, right? Like they're like, oh my God, that's me. So this is something that you guys can easily start doing even on your socials, right? Like maybe if you've got some cheerleader customers, return customers, maybe even some of those estheticians that can share before and after transformation type stories. That would be kind of a cool thing. Maybe you guys are doing that already.
We can definitely, we've just started that. Like we've been wrestling with like we should definitely just ask people for the like these before and afters and like their quotes and all that, but we kind of shied away from it a little bit. It's interesting, like as coming as scientists, we're all like, okay, let's just throw education at people. But I think there's an element you just said, which is like people need to understand it at their level and understand like what they're gonna see off of this, right? So yeah, that's an area we can definitely scale on.
Hey there, I want to invite you to join our Grow Your Wealth community over on Slack. It's a safe space to network and connect with podcast guests, entrepreneurs, and wellness minded pros just like you. Head to growyourwealthpodcast.com/community to join us. That's growyourwealthpodcast.com/community. I look forward to seeing you over there. You guys can still play that role, right? Like you guys are the experts. Consumers they're not necessarily the experts. You're part of Realfluence. So, this is something that we talk about. That's why we like to connect experts, such as in this case, estheticians with brands, right? Just to have additional credibility beyond just the founders and the, health advisory boards and things like that. So that being said, people purchase from people. Ultimately, they are purchasing a product from you. So certainly we want to hear from the team, from your mom about some of this science, which is so, so important. That definitely helps with credibility, certainly with authority. As a new brand, though, the challenge that you're up against, though, right, is that problem awareness. And also, people also like to buy, not necessarily be the first to try it. Others have tried it and have something positive to say about it too. And that's something that you are uniquely positioned for as a product-based business. Your products are not super expensive. You could even incentivize it in some way. So maybe it could be if you guys are on Amazon, if you haven't done so already, there's like Amazon Buying, is it Creator Connect, like things like that you guys can join to start to get some like reviews, befores and afters of that nature that you could use on your website, across social media, certainly in your PR efforts, just to also show proof of concept, right? There's a difference between proof and promises, right? You want both. You have the promise, which is the science. Now we want the proof to really like illustrate that promise that you guys are talking about on your website and so forth too. So when we can kind of marry those things, that's when it makes a transaction or a conversion with your customers just less friction in that transaction, so to speak.
I love it. I love it. You got my mind thinking because we did, if you think about a couple products, we did actually enroll a few in Vine that all came back super positive, which is tremendously helpful. And now it's like marrying some of that, maybe consumer feedback with some expert feedback. And I think like that makes a powerful combination for somebody to trust, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a framework that we use at Factor PR that you'll hear us talking about a little bit in the DIY PR project. It's called the Path to Prominence. And I've been working in PR now for 17 years, so a long time. But I had this agency now for about 9 years and have been really, really perfecting our process for getting great outcomes for our clients. Because at the end of the day, you're probably sitting here today thinking about PR, but you own a business. And when you own a business, you don't wake up in the morning thinking, PR sounds great. You're like, I need to pay my bills. I need to grow, generate revenue. PR rather it's an unlock for that next level of growth is how we really view it. And so where we've put together at Factor is this Path to Prominence, which is a very simple 3-part system. It's simple the way that we've laid it out, but I'll explain what's kind of underneath the surface too. That in order to earn better revenue for your business or earn revenue more consistently, right? That's sort of part 3 of the Path to Prominence. We can't forget the first 2 parts, which is the first and foremost, your reputation. Who are you? What do you stand for? What is your positioning? Building that brand reputation. And we do that, tactically speaking, through this exercise that we're doing now, really drilling into your why. Like, what is your market position? What is your secret sauce? And you can also express that through your own channels, like on your website, as well as through social media and so forth. Once we have that clear foundation, the next step is we want to start earning recognition for our brand too. And recognition, where a lot of brands kind of flip the script, is they want to jump, they understand reputation, but they want to jump over recognition, get the revenue, and then come back and start to get the recognition.
Sure.
It's not that that can't work. You want to be cash positive, obviously, at all times. But the brands that kind of jump over the recognition and then go back, right? We start to see that they break the wheel a little bit because they're jumping towards revenue, but they're not building any kind of trust in the meantime. They basically jump to paid before they've worked on organic. And so what we have found in our practice is that building organic is important, right? Because basically you want to see what works and then invest and add fuel to the fire, right? There's really three ways that you can kind of build your customer base. You can build your audience, which is through that organic, social, and so forth. You can borrow your audience, which is things like affiliates, PR, and so forth, right? If you get featured in Good Housekeeping, you're borrowing their audience, get to know your brand, and then you buy your audience, which is arguably, yes, the fastest, but it's also the most expensive over time, right? If all we do is just exist on advertising, right? And that's the only thing that's keeping our business alive, that's when we start to see profits drip because you turn the ads off, and then your revenue disappears. So that being said, starting with the reputation piece, then building in recognition for your brand will make the revenue process, earning revenue more seamlessly, a lot easier. So if we were to kind of follow that path to prominence method, specifically for Belfiore, right? You've already got a lot of great things going for you already. That reputation piece, we're starting there, right? So we're thinking about how can I start to build trust and equity in my brand, in its reputation. We talked about proof and promise, positioning as well too. So we want to make sure that the science is clear. We're a painkiller, we're a vitamin, whatever that looks like. Once you do module 1 in the DIY PR project, that really uncovers that part, right? Just in terms of that positioning piece. From there, we want to make sure that that positioning is reflected in all of our marketing materials, on our socials, on our Instagram, our website, and so forth too. This is also a great time if you guys have a blog on your website, you can start to test a lot of this too. What I love about organic is that it doesn't cost much to make a blog, right? You can post it, kind of nurture it, measure it, share it, and see like what's really starting to resonate with your audience as well. Once you've got sort of those breadcrumbs built to your brand, you're going to be a lot better positioned now to go out and earn press coverage for your brand as well too. If your business was my business, where I would kind of put my eggs in my basket, is Amazon, to be honest with you. And I know that, some other D2C brands and CPG brands would say like, how could you? But from a PR perspective, specifically, it is the preferred distributor, because if you can kill it on Amazon, you can probably kill it somewhere else too. So it's a great case study if you want to expand retail visibility. Maybe you want to be in Sephora one day or Saks. You have to show that like people buy your product somewhere.
Sure, yeah.
Everybody wants to diversify at first. Pick a platform, kill it on that platform, right? Amazon is so successful because of the reviews. So it also helps in that regard. You're able to, amass reviews, build trust with consumers in that way also too. Journalists love Amazon as well. So if you are on Amazon, it's commissionable so that when you start pitching, journalists and so forth, they're going to want some kind of commissionable link. And we find in our practice that retailers usually outperform media interest versus your direct to consumer, even if you have direct to consumer affiliates on your on your like Shopify or what have you. So you kind of need both. But again, from a media standpoint, we find that our clients will have more success if they're on something like an Amazon. If you're not on an Amazon, other places that work are going to be like your big box retailers like Sephora, Ulta. We're not there yet, but yes, we want to work towards that too. The next thing that I would also think about is who can you onboard as skincare or hair care experts as your ambassadors. So there's a lot of ripe media opportunity for interviews with estheticians or dermatologists recommending products, right? So we do this all the time and use RealFluence for this. There's actually one dermatologist in RealFluence who might be a great fit for you. She's Indian too. Her name is Dr. Sethi Thacker. She's amazing. She's actually she was one of our Factor clients. But now she's just like killing it with the brand partnerships. And so one way that you can work with people like her is kind of presenting her as an interview subject. Let's say Vogue is working on a story about best lavender infused skincare, and we need to talk to a dermatologist. She can be the dermatologist to talk to the media and plug your brand. So that's a nice way. I mean, we have amazing. I actually have a podcast episode coming up about how CPG brands can get up to 50% more media coverage if they just do this little partnership with, Derm or someone like that. The key though is that they can't be brand affiliated, so they can't be like, a formulator on your team or making money, through sales and things like that. So it has to be more of that organic relationship. But just one additional way that you can start to think about, once I turn this PR engine on, how do I maximize the tools that we've shared with you so that you are seeing results? First starting with that positioning, leveraging Amazon, linking up with, maybe it only has to be like 1 to 2 experts, like a derm or an esthetician. And then focus on that. I don't want you like jumping around and tried all the different strategies and tactics and things like that. You'll burn out. Focus on like one kind of campaign. Maybe it's just like a general awareness campaign. Maybe it's something more seasonal. Maybe it's holiday gift guides or something along those lines, and just work it for 3 months. Like give yourself at least 3 months, pick like your top 10 to 15 outlets. Again, DIY will teach you where to find the right journalists, how to get their contact info, all of that good stuff, and build that relationship with them. Start following them on social media, engaging with them, offer to share products with them. I would just love your honest review. Doesn't necessarily have to be like, I'm going to get a story out of this. It's really about getting that, getting those reviews, feedback, things like that. And I know it sounds like a lot, but you got to weigh that along with like, bringing all the products to a trade show and like, in a trade show. And it's like, that's a lot of work for you guys too. And most of the PR stuff, at least in this stage right now for you guys, can be 100% virtual.
Yeah, I love it. This has been super helpful, Rita. Thank you. Yeah.
That's amazing. I really like your brand. It's a lot, and thankfully we're recording this so you can go back and listen to it. But yeah, the biggest thing is just like use this community, ask questions. I've been working in PR, like I said, for a long time, and you're going to hear nothing more than you even hear no, right? Then you're going to hear no, and then you're going to hear yes, right? And, I've built my career on fewer yeses than anything, right? That's how I used to look at it. It's like, if I would have stopped at those first few no's, I would not have a career in PR, right? None of my clients would have any PR either. So just keep that in mind as you're like embarking on this journey, is like so it's much about creativity and tenacity as it is about resilience. Like just because someone says no now doesn't mean it's forever as well too. And so we have a kind of a mindset, like a 5-minute mindset briefer at the beginning of DIY PR project to like, yes, motivate you and get you psyched, but also be like, we know that there are going to be times that it's crickets and you wonder, is this going to be worth it? But I promise if you stick with it, it will absolutely be worth it for you.
I love it. Thank you. This has been hugely helpful.
Yeah.
We'll take these courses. I'll take all these notes. This has been, again, so helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, come to these calls. You'll find like when you're putting together your plan, your sort of hit list of target media outlets, we can walk through all of that together too. So if you're like, am I doing this right? How does this look to you? How would you tweak it? That's what this is all set up for, is to be like your publicist in your pocket, right? You can come in and say, like, just get that reassurance too that you're doing it right. So this isn't just, it's not just a course. It's really that community, that's coaching that, will not just help you get, press today, but for, the in perpetuity of your business too. But what questions do you have? Did any of that sound like confusing to you? And happy to clarify.
No, this is all good. I think the piece, so yes, kill on Amazon, commissionable links. I always understand the ratio of like the larger retail versus direct consumer space for the right investment on the journalist piece where they will get their return.
Yeah.
Makes all sense. Going into the partnerships piece, it's interesting, and I also very much understand that they probably should not be like an affiliated or like, for lack of better terms, paid influence from the brand versus their standalone expertise that is organically liking the brand, right? I think that also has a good amount of weight to it and rebuilds trust in the audience there. I'd love to work through the real influence and get to know the right partners there. That would be hugely beneficial. And I'm 99% certain my mom has a number of local estheticians that would be very prominent on this space. So I think tacking these two pieces is very tactical steps we're going to be taking.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a little, it's not really a secret. It's something that I share with even prospective clients all the time is if you kind of negotiate with the expert, right, and say, maybe you'll give them free products and I'd love to pitch you to the media. There's value in that as well, too, right? Because they're getting that kind of muscle behind their own brand name as well. Like you're the one that's pitching them to the media. So they're also getting that free publicity value out of this partnership too. And you're also getting a new fan of your brand as well. That's kind of the interesting thing is that ultimately when you are working with these professionals, you want them to be ambassadors and advocates, on an organic level. But you never know, right? There might be like a bigger paid partnership in it for them in the future also too. I had a client recently, they're in the wellness space, and we've been like very actively pitching them for podcasts. And there was one podcast that came back because they sell a product. Lots of podcasts are like, all right, I want to set up a call and talk about partnerships. So that's kind of one downside just to prepare yourself for is that when you do have a product-based business, things like podcasts will look for sponsorships for their show, things like that. And so we had I would say a tier A podcast that was very interested and they wanted $40,000 for my client to appear on the show. And so a client comes back and they're like, what do you guys think that we should do? Right? There's no shame in the game of you got the budget, go for it, right? I said what I would do is if this was my business, I would take that 40K and I would go find a killer partner for the brand, like a, pretty high profile. In this case, we would be looking for a doctor or an athlete, like that kind of caliber, like a Instagram famous doctor and like a professional athlete. And I would pitch them to the podcasts. And right, so you're getting not just $40,000 investing that into a person or maybe to split it between two people. But now those two people can go on podcasts, do interviews about what they do and talk about your brand. So you're not just getting one placement, you're getting multiple because that's sort of like the ding on any kind of CPG brand that I work with in the PR space. I get asked all the time, like, is PR just pay to play now for products? And it's more pay to play. If you've got a person and a product, people rarely need to pay to play. If you're an expert, no, journalists are like coming to us every day, like, please can I have your expertise in my story? If you have a product, they're like, open your wallet and then I'll get you in my store. Right? Like that is the nature of it. It's not impossible. It's just going to be more challenging for you. So that being said, because you have something to sell, right? So that being said, my advice to them was nobody's going to charge a doctor to come on their show, right? If anything, you're going to pay a doctor to come on your show. So, using your funds in that regard. So, which is why, again, partnerships with the right people are able to really help amplify your brand, sometimes a lot better than, across multiple opportunities than like sinking all of that investment into like one avenue, hoping that your ad will pay off. It might, but when you're, still very nascent in your business, sometimes you just don't have $40,000. Risk it and find out.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Actually, genius to think about, right? The right expert is the right like leverage to go into the next level of reputation, right? I think that's a whole area we need to give a bit more thought into on our end because we've been thinking on the scientific formulation side. That's again our credibility, but on the user of the product, there's another level of credibility, and that might be the esthetician, spa owner, dermatologist space. And building those partnerships, again, like you said, are so just organically helpful.
Yeah, I love something that you just said too, right? Like if you're going to visit your esthetician, they know your face. They are going to make those recommendations. You trust them. So, it sounds like if you already have some estheticians in your network that might be already familiar with the brand and, basically doing what they're doing with their clients, but doing it, with the media or on social media. It sounds like that would be a great place to, again, spend a little time kind of finessing what that partnership would look like. And again, you don't need a ton of people, right? You just need, like I said, one, two, maybe three. Start off with them, test the concept, see if you're getting just any kind of kickback from that. And then you can, again, add fuel to the fire and maybe make it a thing, maybe make it an ambassadorship or something like that too. So I'm excited for you. Like I know it's a lot, but there's just a lot of possibility in what you're trying to build here.
I love it. Thank you. This is, again, as always, hugely helpful to talk through all of these different tactics and just drill down into how we see ourselves being positioned and get some professional, feedback on how this would all work. Deeply respect your expertise around this and excited to go into the DIY courses and really like just kill it in that. And we'll definitely keep looping back to like the feedback here and understanding are we on the right track.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what we're here for. Also, turn your notifications on in both communities because we oftentimes will share opportunities, especially because we work a lot in the beauty and wellness space. Like, for example, the Good Housekeeping Beauty Awards just open. If you wanted to send a product to them, get it tested by their lab, get some feedback. I mean, there's just so many other cool things, but your timing is perfect. Like going into the fall and holiday season, this is where I would say we end up getting like, a good portion of coverage for clients. It's just more of an appetite for that right now too. So I look forward to working closely with you guys.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rena. I much appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this episode deposited some useful advice and insights to help you grow your wealth. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future conversations. You can find more resources, episode details, and updates at growyourwealthpodcast.com. And let's keep the conversation going on Instagram. Follow me at Grow Your Wealth Podcast. I'd love to hear your thoughts, questions, or takeaway from today's show. Until next time, remember, burnout is optional. Take care, and I'll see you next week.